Ladies and gentlemen, today we've got one of the most interesting interior designers I've had the privilege of interviewing. We've got Samuel Alexander with us. He's a South African interior designer who's got over 10 years of experience helping families create their dream homes. He's even worked on the homes of very famous people like Nelson Mandela. That's right. Let's get into his story. Samuel, first tell us, how did you even get into interior design?
Sure. So I find myself being a creative. Um, I was quite multifaceted at a young age, singing, being on stage, acting, etc., being in front of the camera. And I got to a point where I needed to solidify my career as a creative. And I thought, wow, what a wonderful way to do it with interior design because you're actually on people's homes and you create spaces. And that's where true experiences happen in life or in spaces. So, um, we use the term home, and people always ask, what do you do as an interior decorator? I'm like, I'm not a decorator. I'm an interior designer, and it's one of the things that irk us. But ultimately, decorators, designers, um, homemakers really create homes, and but what homes are spaces, and so that's how I express spaces because every single space a human being interacts with really allows for an experience to happen, and that's the gig of an interior designer or creative.
So cool. And how long have you been in interior design for?
It would be my 10th year, ninth, 10th year, yeah.
Nice. And what would you say is like the coolest project you've ever worked on and the coolest transformation you've ever done?
Called Sanctuary Mandela. That was Nelson Mandela's first home when he was released from prison. It was his first presidential home that was given to him. So he was there from about like 1992 to about like to 1998, 1999, I think, or something like that. And that was the foundations. Um, or the Nelson Mandela Foundation um, headquarters, and eventually they just needed really to create something that was unique, that was um, self-sustaining, and that was huge for the project. Was sustainability, and so yeah, Sanctuary Mandela was created. I worked on that with a company called Kim H New Interior Design. Yeah, that was something I feel that sure really did shift my career, impact my career, and really solidify me as an interior designer. I had have worked on other projects that have been super amazing. But I feel like this one really kind of set me apart just in my thinking. And never mind the elevation in career, just the way that I was able to stand up as an interior designer amongst a group of professionals. I mean, that's a hard gig because all you're doing is the pretties, but ultimately it's not the pretties, it's the plumbing points, it's the electricity points, it's the lighting points, it's where the light switch goes, it's where the plug switch goes, it's where the light goes on the ceiling with which kind of ceiling detail, and if there are curtains, are you hiding those curtains away in curtain pockets or are they revealed? What's the detail on the it just goes on and on and on. So that was a huge project for me that really inspired me.
That's gotta be such a huge flex as an interior designer to say I worked on Nelson Mandela's home. That's really cool. What are some lessons you learned working on that project?
Really, so what they ultimately wanted was self-sustainability, and the challenge was is that they needed to host fellows during um, for like 3 months of the year. So the challenge was is sure they can host for them for they can host them for 3 months of the year, but then now this home is just it stands. So the concept really came from the design team at QMHNU, where why don't we turn this into a hotel, but really also create a home so that it feels homely when people are here. It doesn't feel pretentious. It feels really, really, really understated. And the challenge was also is placing his face everywhere, because like he's such an icon. You cannot remove the guy from the president, from the status. And so it was really trying to reflect him in a way that was homely, that was accessible to everyone. And it's called a place of reflection, a place of reflection. Um, And the whole idea was to place the art in a way that was not bombastic but really understated, so you stumbled upon it, and if you didn't, you lost out on opportunities. One of the things that I loved in the projects, or in the project, sorry, was we placed letters that he wrote from prison. It was so beautiful because when you read these letters, you read it from a stance that he was in prison, and he's writing to the authorities to please ask if he can be released to go and sort out matters at home, because something's not okay and he just needs to deal with that. That's all, and he can come back. And they denied him the opportunity. I think his wife at the time was ill. And then we wrote, and then he wrote another letter that I read, and it was so difficult because his handwriting was just really, really, really hard to read. So just hours of like just really focusing on pages, copious amounts, to pick the right curated piece. And it read, "My darlings," it started off, and it said, "Daddy is okay, everything's fine, Dad will be home soon, you don't worry about anything." And so this was the challenge of this, of what I learned, um, or the things that I've understood when I deal with design now, is one has to be purposeful in the way that you create stories, when you create experiences in spaces. That is why we become professionals at what we do, is really to be able to enable thought-provoking experiences for people through scent, through touch, through taste, through hearing, just everything, an embodied experience.
Absolutely. And what would you say is your creative process like? I know a lot of people who want to go about decorating their homes or, redoing their homes to build their dream kind of style. I know that a lot of them struggle sometimes with where to get started and how to do things. So I'd love to get some insights into what your creative process is like.
I think what's important is you have to listen to the client. Um, Engaging with the client, so starting there, let's have some interaction so I can get to know you and you can get to know me, and we can trust each other on this process. That's imperative. So that's one thing that I do believe starts or really kicks off a relationship with an interior designer. The process really is discussing the dislikes, discussing the things that they enjoy. It really is important. I say to my clients, you have to be honest. The more I know, the more I understand how to solve your problem. But the less I know, so tell me what you don't like. Tell me how we can solve what you enjoy. Tell me your favorite colors. And even if it aren't things that you don't necessarily want me to put into the space, it's almost like I say, interior designers are veterinarians. You bring a sick puppy to the vet, and then the vet ultimately says, the dog's got a left out problem. That's what you really do as an interior designer. Where I find my inspiration are really in people, finding out how people interact in spaces, finding out how people work in spaces. That's imperative. The comfortability, the ergonomics of spaces. Ergonomics are really fundamental when you start designing. If you start at ergonomics, you'll make spaces feel comfortable. You make spaces feel cozy. You make spaces feel really inviting, because that's what ergonomics does to a space. And then really exposing yourself to what's out there. So when I say what's out there, yeah, we get the internet, and that's, it's simple as that, popping onto Pinterest, going into Instagram, going into LinkedIn, etc. For me, what's important in terms of exposure is going out, being social, going to spaces that are popping up, going to spaces that really like, oh wow, have designers done that, have space creators done this. And so when you do that, you also find the opportunity to be like, wow, they've been ballsy, I should try this maybe. That's a huge one. And then the most important thing about getting ideas are taking a pencil or a pen. I like to use a pen because I like to commit. I don't erase my mistakes, because that's not true art. True art is filled with all its beauty. So I take a pen and I draw. I literally put pen to paper, and that's imperative when it comes to the conceptual process. In order to get to a proper resolution with a client, because that's what they need. So if you're not doing that, you're not really coming up with concepts. And that's how really I do my conceptual process. Ultimately, we do ultimately we do the installation process also, where we come in, we make people feel comfortable, we make them sort of like the handover process, the grand moment where you leave your keys with me, you go away for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, however long the installation is, and then you come back and we give you the keys and we pop and we give you some sushi.
You know, there are so many styles out there, so much inspiration on platforms like Pinterest and Instagram. How does a family or a person that's just starting to decorate their home go about picking the right style for the space that they're living in? I mean, what are some things that you recommend to your clients that are just getting started, that are looking to balance out the different styles they might like and their spouse might like?
I think what's important is you have to consider the space that you're working with. Like, don't be outlandish. Don't don't get a rug that's bigger than the space. Don't get a bed that's not going to allow you to walk around it. Um, Important thing that I believe every designer should have, that you can create pretty pictures and you can show beautiful 3Ds, but if you don't understand what's going on technically, then that's a mess as an interior designer. So any advice I can give to someone who is like, wow, I have a beautiful wall that I'd like to put some slats on, I would say measure it out and know that it's 3 meters. And then maybe you can say, well, I'd like my each slat to be like 50 millimeters, or the gap needs to be 20 millimeters, and then divide that. But like, know what you're doing, because if you don't understand space and what can fill the space, you're going to mess up. So, if you want to fill the wall, know that how big the wall is. Don't just go and buy a painting and be like, I know this is going to be big enough for the wall. And you're going to get home and then that painting's like this big on the wall because your scale is off. And it happens. It really does. So measure out the wall and be like, okay, cool. Then go to the art gallery or go to your local artist and tell them my lounge is 4 meters by 7 meters, and my entrance is at this end, and these are the windows, and I want to be able to place sofas and a coffee table in the space because I want it to be an entertainer space. It is so important to understand space so that you can create what you want of these beautiful inspiration images that are simple to create.
And that leads me to my next question, which is, what are some common mistakes you see people trying to decorate their homes make?
I think a big challenge that I see with clients are they do not consult interior designers soon enough in their process, number one. They're always the last to be thought of. They're never involved with the architect. They're never involved from the beginning to be able to really guide the client. Interior designers are really, there, shall I say, they're like the fairy godmothers or the magicians of creating magic, tautology. But yeah, it's getting the designer involved in the beginning. If you're gonna do your lounge up and you know what, you don't go and chop up your floor and spend X amount and then be like, oh, I hate it so much. I should have got an interior designer and I have to live with it. You have to live with that floor. So I would say consult an interior designer from the beginning so that you can really get the best out of the experience that you want. And it's going to cost you a little bit, but you can really explain to your designer what you want. And you can go to various firms because various firms play in different LSMs in different leagues. So some designers only take on a project of X amount of value. Other designers take less, maybe freelancers, etc. But consult someone who knows about space because that really helps you. Take them out for a drink, for some coffee or a lunch, spoil them to a holiday. I don't know. And get the advice you need, I always say. And then maybe I can also add something that I really do see my clients getting wrong are rug sizes and scale. Looking at what they anticipate and want and what they get are like two different things. And I'm like, no, but you want luxe. So luxe is, it's large, it's comfortable. So, it's it's going through those moments. So like also, yeah, rugs. Oh, I see it all the time, and everyone's like, no, but you can place them differently and you can use it differently. So just the coffee table can be on the rug, or or the rug can just hit the under the feet of the sofas, and I'm like, no, you're trying to create a space. You're trying to designate and signify. That's what design does. It's psychological, and so a lot of people really don't realize that your ceiling details, your floor details can really signify that this is the dining room, this is the seating area, this is the entrance hall. You know, small things like runners, like rugs that are big enough that encompass spaces so that they feel luxe. Just spend the extra end, spend the extra money just to be able to get what you want.
It's really interesting. What would you say are some things that people at home can do to pick the right interior designer, especially a designer that they might have common taste with and will actually create a home that, reflects their personality and their family's personality and values and style?
Sure, that's a loaded question. That's quite intense because, okay. So your first question was how do you, so just repeat your second question. I remember your first question was
First question is, how do you go about finding the right interior designer to work with?
how do you go about finding the right interior designer? Um, you have to know what your budget is because the budget question caught me off guard there. You have to know what your budget is. You have to know the experience that you want. If you just want some quick advice, um, I'm gonna say hop onto Pinterest, hop onto Instagram. If you really want the proper experience of interior designer, the way to choose one is check the social media, and see if what they create is in alignment with yours. If you're looking for bespoke experiences, if you're looking for experiences that are exclusive, then you need to align yourself with designers who create exclusive work, because then they are going to understand your outcomes and the kind of experience that you're looking for. If you're looking for a drive by and just a quick in and out, nothing committing, then know that you're going to spend a quick small amount of money to be able to consult with the designer to get your outcomes. But if you really want to know that I want to create a home for my family, I want to create a hotel for my brand, I want to really create a workspace that allows collaborative thinking, then let me consult designers who are dynamic enough to be able to create what I need. Because really, outcomes nowadays is so dynamic. What people want out of their buck is they want that extra kick. And unfortunately, as a designer, you really need to be well decked. You need to be able to be well versed and diverse and agile in the way that you design. So whether it's hotels, homes, offices, restaurants, nightclubs, outdoor restaurant park themes, etc., you really have to understand that um, design is design ultimately. So yeah, I don't want to be too long-winded on the point. The budget point caught me off guard. The budget point completely caught me off guard. That's what I was thinking about. So when you really look for a designer, I would say if you want to redo your home, you should probably think about spending at least $100,000. I think that's a good amount to look at. I would say for myself, that would be excluding my design fee. My design fee on something like that would probably be around 30%, 20% negotiable. Yeah, we can see what's up, but um, yeah, I would say if you're looking at like a 2, 3 bedroom home, look at about that amount of money. Anything more exclusive, and again, if you want something bespoke, then spend the money so you can get it the way that you want it and need it to be.
And that's about the questions I've got, Samuel. Are there any other tips and tricks or lessons you've learned on the job that you'd like to share with our audience?
Sure. I think what you can learn, or what I have learned on the gig in design, is you just have to be creative about the process and have fun. You have to be able to just explore what can be, don't be limited. There are many ways to skin one cat. It's sort of, interior design is like creating magic in a space. It's creating the fantasies, and that's what we really do at where I work. And for myself as a brand, and that's what I do, is I create I create spaces that feel magical so that people are comfortable in them and feel relaxed inside of them. And really, you use texture. Lots of texture is so important. Use pattern. Pattern is so beautiful. People don't realize that life is so short for planes. Just use pattern, guys. It's fun. It's exciting. And then something that I have learned, lighting is everything. I know my lighting is terrible, so I'm so sorry. I just ran out, but and just popped the phone. But lighting is absolutely everything in interior design. That really does change it. And then just be comfortable, lots of cushions and comfy couches, and yeah.
Awesome. And lastly, are there any social media links or anything like that that you'd like to promote to our audience? How can people get in touch with you?
My Instagram is Josie Design Guru. So that's JOZI Design Guru. Yeah, and it's not to me. So I'm quite a diverse person. I'm a singer. I also do public speaking. So my social media has all of 3 posts on right now, just because I'm a true creator like that. I live in the moment. So I have been told by many creatives, like, get your act together. So I'm doing my best, but me staying present in projects and I mean my creative work is so imperative. So yeah, that's where you can find me, and hook me. You can probably get my phone number. You can probably get my personal email address, and you can post that. I don't mind, just as long as I don't get, all weird people calling me. But probably that's part of the gig. But yeah, I can share those details, and then you guys can call me if you need me, and I can come through.
And that's it for today's episode. Let us know what you thought and subscribe if you enjoyed. See you till next time.